In Climate Watch, a new report shows none of the world's major economic countries have sufficient plans to combat climate change. The report from the Climate Action Tracker says that countries that submitted emissions targets need to, quote, rethink their choice. That includes the U.S., which the watchdog group rated as insufficient in its target goals. For more, let's bring in CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Berardelli. Jeff, let's talk first about the report's findings. Only one country has sufficient plans to reduce global greenhouse emissions. Tell us, who is that and what needs to happen to get everybody else on target?
So the country is the Gambia. It's in Western Africa. It has about 2 million people or so. It's a developing nation. And what they're doing differently than the rest of the world is not only do they have ambitious climate goals, but they have policies to follow through with those goals. Now, just about every other country on earth is not sufficient. The UK is close, the European Union doing pretty well, Norway, Germany doing pretty well. But it's pretty simple what needs to be done. We all know what needs to be done. We need to transition all of our economies and the way we produce energy from fossil fuels to renewable energy like wind, solar, and to some degree nuclear. But we are not doing it. There are a lot of ambitious pledges. There are a lot of broken promises, but not many people are following through. Not many countries are following through with those promises. So everybody is insufficient, basically. The United States has some good ambitions, but they're still falling short. We're doing okay if we follow through with our ambitions. Russia not doing very well at all. Brazil not doing well, Australia not doing well, so on and so forth.
The UN Climate Change Conference is in November. Jeff, what do you think about the timing of the Climate Action Tracker report?
So, this is not the only report that, is talking about, how we're faring in terms of the pledges that were made in the Paris Agreement and are we following through with these pledges? We call them national determined contributions. This is all to coincide. All these reports that you're hearing about, there's another one that came out from the UN today. All these reports are to inform countries and the world on how poorly, honestly, and how we're failing to reel in climate change. COP26 is the 26th international meeting of all the countries that happens in Glasgow in November. And the goal of this year's international meeting is to recommit to the pledges that we made in 2015. And what we're supposed to be doing, all the countries are supposed to be coming to the table with more ambitious goals. Now, these are all voluntary goals. Unfortunately, countries cannot be held to them, but they are supposed to re-up them every 5 years, and this is a year to do it.
And the repercussions, even if they're not held to it, can be severe. So, Jeff, the Climate Action Tracker report also says that 2030 is the most important target date. Can you explain for our audience why that is?
Right. So in the Paris Agreement, we agreed, all the countries, all the nations of the world said that we would try to limit warming to 1.5 or 2 degrees. Now, to limit it to 1.5, we need to halve our emissions. So our emissions need to drop by 50% by 2030. So in the next 8 to 9 years. That's why 2030 is so important. At this pace, we're not going to halve our emissions by 2030. In fact, it looks like we're going to keep them exactly where we are right now, even with the ambitions that we have set forth across the world, or increase them by 5%. So, just about no one in the world actually thinks that we're going to be able to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It's almost impossible. There's still an okay chance that we can limit warming to 2 degrees. But at the pace right now that we're releasing emissions into the atmosphere, heat trapping greenhouse emissions by the burning of fossil fuels, we're on track to warm the planet by around 3 degrees Celsius. This is in Celsius, so that's closer to 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
So even if we met those targets, we're still warming the planet at an increasing rate. All right, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You're welcome.